Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is able to hear my voice and see the presentation on the screen. Excellent. So till date, we have been doing the different sessions related to English in one way or the other, whether it be vocabulary or reading comprehension or even verbal reasoning. All these topics are in one way or the other connected to language, right? But it's high time we moved on to one more portion of reasoning. So today we are going to take a look at a very interesting topic in analytical reasoning, which is known as, just a moment guys, few of you are unable to see the screen. Okay, can we see the screen now? Can you see the presentation now? Okay, so as I was saying, it's a very interesting topic, puzzles, and one of the most commonly asked type of questions in most entrance exams, right? If there's an analytical portion in the paper, then it's almost a guarantee that you will have at least one, if not more, sets of analytical reasoning. And the best part is that analytical reasoning questions are asked in sets, which means there will be a question. Once you solve it, you can answer 4 to 5 questions based on it, right? Based on the information which is given to you, you can almost solve 4 to 5 questions. So it is actually a lot of return on investment. The amount of times you can relatively spend more time on this type of question, because once you have spent that time, you get to solve multiple questions based on that one set of information. So there are different types of puzzles which are asked in entrance examinations. And today we are going to take a look at the different type of puzzles which can be asked in the exams, right? So the very first type of puzzle is something which I call as the comparison puzzle. Now what exactly is meant by a comparison puzzle? Well, let me give you 2 data points. One, I tell you that A is taller than B. Second, I tell you that B is shorter than C. Now, based on these 2 bits of information, can you tell me who is the tallest among the 3 of them? Okay. Few of you are getting it wrong, but the majority is getting it right, and I'm happy to see that. Okay, so let us see, how do we represent this? Either I can say A is taller than B like this using the mathematical symbols, or simply I can put A is taller than B, visually represent it. Now it is said that B is shorter than C. So I can say B is shorter than C like this, or I can say B is shorter than C like this. Now if this was the condition I drew, then obviously I would be tempted to mark that A is the tallest. But what about this? I could have said A is taller than B and B is shorter than C like this, in which case C is the tallest. And I can also say A is taller than B and B is shorter than C. But A and C, both of them could be of the same height. So in this case, I do not know the relationship between A and C, right? So although I can answer the question which is the shortest one, I cannot answer the question which is the tallest one with certainty. So in comparison, when we compare heights, when we compare weights, when we compare ages, ranks, anything on a numeric scale, remember there are 3 relationships possible. One can be less than the other, one they can be greater than the other, or they can be equal to each other. Are we together? Did we understand that? So whenever a comparison is given, consider all three possibilities. Either one is less than the other, or greater than the other, or equal to the other. Did you get it, guys? Yes? Okay. Chalo. So given this puzzle, right, a set of data about girls is given. Look at it and tell me who is the youngest one in this group. Okay. I think relatively easy. Most of us are getting it. Okay. So it's given that Aarti is older than Sanya. So Aarti is older than Sanya. Muskan is elder than Aarti. Well, Muskan is elder than Aarti but younger than Kashish. Okay. Kashish is elder than Sanya. I already know that. Sanya is younger than Muskan. Already know that. Gargi is the eldest. So it is clear that Gargi is elder to Kashish, is elder to Muskan, is elder to Aarti, is obviously elder to Sanya, which makes Sanya the youngest person in the group. Right? So option D, Sanya is definitely the right answer. Did everybody get this one? Relatively very simple. Absolutely no confusion in this. Okay. Moving on. Try this one. Okay. So there are 5 friends. A is shorter than B but taller than E. C is the tallest. D is shorter than B and taller than A. So we have got the scale with E being the shortest, C being the tallest. Now the question is worded very interestingly. Who has 2 persons taller and 2 persons shorter than him or her? Essentially they are asking who is in the middle. So here D has E and A, 2 of them shorter, B and C, 2 of them taller. So option D, that is person D, is the person who has 2 persons taller and 2 persons shorter. Did everybody get this one? Pratyush? The answer is D. I hope you got that. Okay. Chalo. Try this one. Hmm. So, 5 children administered psychological tests. It is given that A is less than B, C is less than D, B is less than C. So if B is less than C, then obviously C is less than D. So B is also less than D. And A is more intelligent than child E, which makes E as the least intelligent and D as the most intelligent. So option C should be my right answer. I think most of us got this one right. I hope there was no confusion. So comparison puzzle so far is pretty easy to solve, right? Okay, let's move ahead to the next type of puzzles which can be asked. These are known as grids or table based puzzles. So what happens is that in such questions you are given data which have to be aligned with each other. For example, there could be 5 boys and 5 subjects, and based on the clue you have to match which boy is studying which subject. Sometimes based on the nature of the clues you will be able to identify that it is possible that one boy studies more than one subject, or on the other hand, sometimes the clues are worded in such a manner that you will be able to identify that one boy studies exactly one subject. So depending on how the clues are given to us, we should be able to judge that. That is the simple part. Now, for such puzzles, it's very important to create and fill in the grid or table properly. So let's take an example, right? For example, it is given that on a shelf are 6 volumes side by side labeled A, B, C, D, E, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in this data. I have A, B, C, D, E, and F as my 6 books. It says B, C, E, F have green covers. So B, C, E, and F have green covers while the rest have yellow. Okay. A, D, B are new. A, D, and B are new, which means the remaining are old. A, C, B are law reviews. A, C, and B are law reviews. The rest are medical extracts. So now I have sorted all of them. Simple, old, medical, green. So basically I'm looking for a row which says GROM. Which ones say GROM, right? So this gets eliminated, eliminated, eliminated. The last two, both E and F, they satisfy the conditions of being green, being old, and being medical extracts. So in this case, obviously E and F are the 2 volumes which are old medical extracts and have green covers, right? A very simple, very basic kind of table question. This is not something which is going to worry us too much. Everybody is going to get this right. Okay. Now this is slightly complicated and one of the better kind of examples. I'm not directly going to show you how to do it. Rather, I'm going to give you a minute. I want you to think about it. I want you to try this. If you get the answer, very good. Else, I will show you later how to solve this example. So first, I'm giving you a couple of minutes to think about it on your own. See how whether you can solve it. Basically, you have to find out who is wearing what. You have to identify the combination for each person. Mm-hmm. Who is wearing what? Man, the question is who is wearing what? Okay. Now, whatever method you have used, if it is quick, then stick to it. But here's one easy way to solve this question. We'll form a grid, right? There are three people, A, B, and C, right? That is the common point. On one side, we have them wearing shirts, which include black, blue, and orange colors. And on the other side, we have them wearing pants of different colors, which include green, yellow, and orange, right? Now, the only clue that we have as of now is that no person wore the pant and shirt of the same color, and the only color pant and shirt which is similar is orange. So we have to be careful that if someone is wearing orange shirt, then cannot be wearing orange pant, and vice versa. Chalo. Now, see how this table is filled, right? Using a table like this and filling in the information makes it very easy for us to analyze data of this kind. First, if I say that A did not wear shirt of black color, then I eliminate this cell. A did not wear a shirt of black color. B did not wear a shirt of blue color. And C did not wear a shirt of orange color. Are we together on this? Did you understand why I crossed out these three cells? Okay. Now, A did not wear a pant of green color. Now, B wore a pant of orange. So, if B wore a pant of orange, first of all, nobody else is wearing the orange pant, and B is not wearing a pant of any other color. So, we eliminate all that. Plus, orange cannot be repeated. So, if B is wearing an orange pant, then B cannot be wearing an orange shirt. Now look, it becomes easy to complete the table. Look for A. A can only be wearing a yellow pant because both green and orange are cancelled. So A is definitely wearing a yellow pant, which means C is definitely wearing a green pant. Here, orange can only be worn by A That means blue can only be worn by C, which means B is wearing black, and we are done. Did you understand? Because there is a single one-on-one relationship between the person and the shirt or pant. So whenever I put a tick, I cross out the entire row and column. Whenever we know that there is a one-on-one relationship between two entities in a grid, whenever you put a tick in any cell, make sure you cross out the entire row and column. That's where very systematically, if you fill in the table, by the time you reach the end of the clues, by the time you finish reading them, you might as well have solved the entire puzzle. And sometimes for grid based puzzles, they might have 3 to 5 questions. So solving it becomes a piece of cake, and you get a lot of points for this type of example. Did everybody understand this table method of solving it? Okay, I'm going to explain this once again for those who did not get it. See, I have got 3 people, A, B and C. They're wearing shirts of 3 different colors, black, blue and orange. They're wearing pants of 3 different colors, green, yellow and orange. Are we together? Mac, are we together? यहाँ तक समझ में आया? Okay. So A did not wear black shirt, B did not wear blue shirt, C did not wear orange shirt, A did not wear green pant, B did not and B wore a pant of orange color. यहाँ तक समझ में आ गया? Now, wherever I put a tick, I have to understand if B is wearing orange, B cannot be wearing any other color pant, so I have to cross these out. And similarly, if the orange pant is already worn by B, then it cannot be worn by A and C. Yes? Now, take a look at this section. For A, which is the only possible option left? For A, which is the only possible pant color left? Yellow. So when I put a tick here, I put a cross here. So the only C and green can only be matched. So the left hand side is done. Did you understand that? Okay. Now it is given that pant and shirt cannot be of the same color. So if B is wearing an orange pant, B cannot be wearing an orange shirt. So orange can only be worn by A. So this is cross. Blue can only be worn by C. This is crossed. This is ticked. That's it. Did you get it? Okay. Chalo. Now this again, a very good example. I'll give you a couple of minutes. You have to match each city with the thing that they are famous for. Match each city with the thing that they are famous for. Okay, Jia. Good man. Okay. Slowly and steadily, people are completing it. What about the others? Okay. Make a table for it, Pratyush. I'll hang around for a few more seconds and then I'll show you the solution. Okay. So you need not be very precise in making a table. Remember, in exam, you don't have to show the method of how you solved it. So you don't need to be very precise with straight vertical and horizontal lines and writing the entire name and everything. You have to use as many shortcuts as possible, right? So if it is given that there are 5 cities and there are 5 different things, so A, B, C, D, E, 5 different cities, lovely gardens, fancy jewelry, educational institutions, blue pottery, and scents. That's it. You don't have to write the entire thing. Now, let's start filling in the tables. A and C are neither educational centers nor do they have gardens. B and E are not famous for jewelry or pottery. Scents and jewelry have nothing to do with A. D and D are not famous for garden and jewelry. D is not famous for educational institutions. Okay, so let's start from the first one. A, the only possibility is blue pottery, so this gets eliminated. B, I still don't know, right? C, multiple possibilities. D, okay, this is fixed with cents. Now E is only educational institutions, so B is only lovely gardens, which means C has to be fancy jewelry. So A goes with blue pottery, B goes with lovely gardens, C goes with fancy jewelry, D goes with scents, and E goes with educational institutions. Did everybody get this? Relatively simple. Pratyush? If anybody has any doubt, do ask. Else I'll move ahead to the next question. Okay. Okay, Dhriti, you just need to be careful in filling up the tables, right? Because it just requires a little bit of attention to detail. These examples are not tough if you do it systematically, right? If you randomly try to solve them, then we end making mistakes. But if you do it systematically, step by step, then by the time you complete the table, you have already solved the example. What is the meaning of point 5? B has demonstrated on Monday. See, and the rest day, there is one day on which there is no demonstration. It's a rest day. The rest day will be immediately after F's demonstration. So whenever F's demonstration is taken, the day after that, nobody will be demonstrating. It will be a day of rest. You have to prepare the timetable on which day which scientist will take which subject. Are we making any progress, guys? Are we done yet? What happened, guys? Taking too long? I'll give you a hint. How I see, what is this? You're preparing a timetable, right? You're preparing a schedule. So when you want to prepare a weekly schedule, what do you do first? Think about it. When you're preparing a weekly schedule, how do you do it? What type of a table do you make? Do you make a list of subjects and then randomly assign days to them? Or first do you list down the days? Right? Whenever you're making a schedule, let's see. So 6 scientists have to demonstrate their subjects. That means basically I have to make a schedule, and demonstration starts from Monday and ends on Sunday. So I mean to start on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. 6 days of the week, 7 days of the week, right? This is how, because they are fixed, they are not going to change their order. So I will first put down days of the week. Chalo. First clue. Chemistry will immediately follow geology. So whichever day geology is there, the next day will be chemistry. But I don't know where they will fit in the table. So for the time being, I'll keep them out. A, who is a mathematician, will demonstrate either on the second or on the last day. So this is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh or last day. So A, who is a mathematician, will either demonstrate on the second day or he'll demonstrate on the last day. I don't know which one. It can be either one of them. So I'm maintaining both my options open. Next clue. C will demonstrate on the third day. So this is the third day. So C to pakka will demonstrate here. Physics will be on the fifth day. This is the fifth day. So physics will be pakka on this day. Now, E, who is a zoologist, demonstrates on the second day. Okay, now this is confirmed that E, who is a zoologist, is delivering on the second day, which means A cannot be here. So A becomes pakka on Sunday, right? A becomes pakka on Sunday with mathematics. Now, B, who has demonstrated on Monday, B has demonstrated on Monday, and the rest day will be immediately after F, right? So let's check where we can fit in F. F has 3 possibilities. F can be on Thursday, Friday or Saturday. If F is on Thursday, I need Friday to be a rest day, but it is already occupied by physics. So F cannot be on Thursday. If F is on Friday, Saturday can obviously be a rest day. There's nothing here. If F is on Saturday, Sunday cannot be a rest day. So for sure, F has to be on Friday so that the very next day becomes a rest day. Now, who is the only person pending? A, B, C. The only person pending is D. So D becomes Thursday, right? Now take a look at this information which we had kept pending. Geology and chemistry need to be fit together. Which are my empty slots? 1 and these 2. And because they have to be together, geology and chemistry can only be fit here because they are the only 2 empty slots together. So considering everything is done, the one subject which is left in the list, botany, has to go in the empty slot. And that is my final list. Did we understand it, everybody? Step by step. So always remember, whenever there is a table-based puzzle, but it's a scheduling puzzle where you have to arrange them according to days of the week or months of the year or hours of a day, then always first fix the days, the months, or the hours, because that does not change order. And once that is done, simply fill in the other details. That would be the easiest way to do it. Did everybody get it? I hope everybody got this one, right? So keep this trick in mind. Now, this a very, very interesting puzzle. Let's see who gets this one. Any progress, guys? Okay. Good, Kunika. Okay. Chalo. It's a very interesting puzzle, and for those of you who play Sudoku, you might have recognized that using a technique of Sudoku actually makes it very easy to solve it. What is given? It is given that there are four players A, B, C, and D, and they're holding four cards, right? Each of them, they have an ace, they have a king, they have a queen, and they have a jack. Okay, and all of them have all the suits. I hope you know what the suits are, right? This is known as the spades, this is hearts, this is clubs, and this is diamonds. So A has ace of spades and queen of diamonds. B has ace of clubs and king of diamonds. C has queen of clubs and king of spades. And D has the jack of clubs. This is all the information that we have, right? Now we need to understand that every person has every suit and every different type of card, that is ace, king, queen, j. So first let's start with A. A already has spades and diamonds. So A needs clubs and hearts. Now, if I put A, this as hearts, king of hearts and jack of clubs, then see what happens. If A has jack of clubs, then D also has jack of clubs, which is not possible, right? So I cannot say that A will be having the jack of clubs because jack of clubs is already taken by D. So A should be having the king of clubs, which makes the hearts of jack. Did you get this first part? Did everybody get this first part? Okay. Now for B, clubs and diamonds are there, spades and hearts. If queen is spades, this cannot be hearts because jack of hearts is already gone. So this is hearts and this is spades. For C, I need hearts and diamonds. But take a look here. Here already hearts, spades and clubs are there. So diamond occupies this and hearts occupies this. So now fill in each column appropriately. Spades, clubs, hearts, remaining is diamond. Clubs, diamonds, spades, remaining is hearts. Diamonds, hearts, clubs, remaining is spades. And check each row has every suit different. Each column has every suit different. This is exactly how Sudoku 2 works. Did everybody understand this one? Any confusions in this one? Once you know how to solve it, it's extremely easy to solve. Rishikesh, yes sir, followed by a no sir. Now I got confused. You understood it, right? No doubt. Okay. Thank you. Chalo. Now, the next type of puzzles that we will be looking at, these are known as conditions based puzzles. Now, till now we saw puzzles in which, based on the set, you could always create the final condition, the final situation, and just answer the questions based on the outcome. But in conditional based puzzles, you cannot have one single answer. There will be multiple possibilities. So for every question of the set, you will have to keep the conditions in mind and solve the individual question asked, right? You cannot form one scenario to answer every question. You will have to create a new situation for every question based on the given conditions and then answer the questions. Like, supposing it is said that a combination of 3 colors is being chosen to decorate a room. The color must be chosen from a group of 7 colors A, B, C, D, E, F, G according to the following conditions. Now remember, the three conditions are if A or B is chosen, then the other must also be chosen. C and D cannot be chosen together. Either C or A or both must be chosen. Now, you cannot just create the answer out of this. Rather, what you should do is apply the options, apply the conditions to each of the options and eliminate. 4 out of the 5 options get eliminated. The remaining one has to be your answer. So which one in these is the best possible option which satisfies all the 3 given conditions? Are you sure, man? Are you sure, Sakshi? Yes, Raghav. This is a bit tricky. You have to be very careful with the options. Yes, Varnika. Okay, guys. So let's take a look at them one by one. Let's take a look at the first option. The very first condition is if A or B is chosen, then the other must also be chosen. That means if A is there, B must be there. The very first condition is violated. Not my answer. The same is the second one. If A is there, B must be there. Not my answer. B is there, A is not there. Not my answer. Okay. Now, fourth one. If A or B is chosen, then the other must be chosen. Either they are together or not together. So it's possible both of them are absent. So first condition, no problem. C and D cannot be chosen together. Okay. D is chosen, C is not. No problem. Either C or A or both must be chosen. C not there. A not there, both not there. So the third condition gets violated, eliminated. Let's take a look at the fourth one. The fifth option. A or B, either both or neither. Well, neither, no problem. C and D not together. Well, C is there and D is not there, no problem. Either C or A or both must be chosen. Well, C has been chosen. This is the one which is maximum, which is meeting all my conditions, and hence that is my answer. Guys, did you understand how we eliminated options A, B, C and D? They are in violation of either one or other condition. It's only the last one. Okay, now did you get it, man? Even if you did not understand it earlier? Good. Okay. Now, the same puzzle, same conditions, slightly different question. It is given that I have to select 3 and 1 D is already chosen for me. So what are the conditions? If D is already chosen, it says C and D cannot be chosen together. So C gets eliminated. Any option with C cannot be selected. The third condition is either C or A or both must be chosen. And obviously C cannot be chosen. So A becomes compulsory now. And the moment A becomes compulsory, the first condition says that because of A, B is also compulsory. That means if D gets chosen, then both A and B have to be chosen. We don't have a choice. So option A and B have to be chosen in case D is selected. Couple of you mentioned D as the D. I hope you understood why D cannot be selected. Because D is selected, so C can never be selected. Sakshi, Aksa, we all got that. Excellent. Now, if E is chosen, then which of the following pairs of colors could also be chosen? Okay. So out of 3, we already have E in place. So first condition, A and B have to be together. So this, there is no B, there is no B, there is no A. So the first 3 options cannot be selected. Now it says C and D cannot be chosen together. Well, neither of them create that problem. Either C or A or both must be chosen. Right? This one has neither C nor A, which means from the given options, C and F are the choices to be made. From the given options, C and F are the choices to be made. Did everybody get this one? Okay. Moving on. Now, the same type of puzzle, but a bit more conditions. Last time we had only 3 conditions. Now 5 conditions to be kept in mind. Yes, Jia. Yeah, few of you are getting it right. Okay, let's take a look at it. There are three panels which are to be formed, right? Panels 1, 2, and 3, and all the conditions are given. Now, the question asks which of the following cannot be true, right? Now, the first option, I appears on the second panel. If I put I on the second panel, the only condition is that N also has to be on the panel along with I, right? And more or less I can fit the others here, right? If you try, you will get more or less conditions where you will be able to adjust all 9 professors here, because the only condition is that I and N have to be together, which is not a great restrictive condition. So A, not my answer. Similarly, if you say that H happens to be on the third panel, right? If H is to be on the third panel, there isn't much of a restriction other that either J or M or both must appear on the panel with H. Now, in this condition, M is already fixed on the second panel, but I can put J on the third panel, so it won't violate much conditions, and then I can fill in the remaining. So this is also not much of a problem, right? Similarly, I can eliminate the third option, O appearing on the third panel, not much of a problem. But we come to condition D. Now we already know that M has to be on the second panel, right? Fourth condition says that M has to be on the second panel. Now, if J appears on the first panel now and H appears on the third panel, that means all three of them are separated, and that means condition 5, that either J or M or both must appear on the panel with H, is violated, and hence option D is the one which is incorrect, which is not possible. Did you get that? Okay, next one. The same one, different question. Chalo. So there are 3 panels. The condition is that M already is established on the second panel, right? Now, if J and K appear on the third panel, let us say J and K appear on the third panel, then what are the conditions? Now, one is that K and L must be on the same panel, which means K and L have to be on the third panel here, which means the third panel is full. And either J or M must appear with H. Now J has no place on his panel, right? So H must appear on the panel with M. So second panel में कौन सा प्रोफेसर का होना ज़रूरी है? The professor H must be on the second panel. Did everybody understand this? Logically, if you do it, there is no guesswork. It's a very logical step-by-step process, right? So if logically step-by-step you worked it out, you'll get the answer. Okay. Why can't H be with J? Beta, look at the condition. Each panel will consist of 3 professors. J, K and L already 3 हो चुके हैं. चौथे के लिए जगह नहीं है. It's given in the data that not more than 3 can be at a time in a panel. So with J, K and L together, you cannot have H there. ठीक है? चलो, try the next one. Yes, now people are quickly getting it. Now you're getting the hang of it. Very good. Okay, so let's go option by option according to conditions. First condition, I and N must be on the same panel. Is there any option violating it? Well, IN same panel, no problem. पहले ही condition को violate करता हुआ option मिल गया, right? This is not valid because if I is there, then N must also be there, right? We directly got the answer to this. So that's it. Option E, GJI cannot be the right panel. मिला सबको? Next one. No, a different set but same conditional puzzles. Okay. If F or G is chosen, the other must also be chosen. If H and J cannot be chosen, either. I think this is very similar to the one we had done, only the names are changed. Guys, do you really want to solve this example? I think it's exactly the same as the very first set of conditional puzzles that we did. Instead of A, B, C, D, it's F, J, H, K, L, M. If J is chosen, okay. So I have to select 3 if J is chosen. H cannot be chosen. If F or G is chosen, the other also must be chosen. So FG is possible. This is not possible. And either H or F. So FG is the answer. A is the answer to this. Yeah, A is the answer to this one. But guys, I think this is exactly a repeat of the first one with only the change in the letters. So I'm going to move on. Yeah, that was just one example. ठीक है, चलो. Try this one. Very interesting puzzle. You have to create a tree, a family tree, so to say. Right? We create a family tree. So, how is each person related to the other? Now it says A, B, C, D, E, F, 6 members of a family, 2 married couples among them. We start with C is the mother of A and F. So C, mother means female. So C is married to somebody who is a male and mother of A and F. Okay. E is the father of D. We know that E is the father of D. E is a male, but we don't know how it fits with the others. So I'll keep it aside. A is the grandson of B. Now, if A is the grandson of B, that means A is a male grandson, right? And now we can reasonably fit, because there are only 6 members and ED, and there are 2 married couples. So this is one married couple. This has to be the other married couple. So E a male, that means B the female and D here. And we know that the total number of females in the family is 3. We already have 2 females and 3 males. So F must be a female. So EB have a son D. D is married to C. C and D have 2 children, a daughter F and a son A. Did we get this tree? So based on this, any question can be asked, but the important part is getting this tree, right? We'll be doing similar examples in the future where you will see what sort of questions can be asked out of this. No need to worry about that now. I'll repeat it just once. See, it is given that C is the mother of A and F. So C, mother means female and married to somebody who is a male. So C is the mother of A and F. Are we together so far? Okay. E is the father of D. Father means male. So E is the father of D. A is the grandson of B. This is A. Grandson means male. So A is the grandson of B. Right? That means I've got my 3 generations. B has to be married to somebody. Right? Only then we have 2 married couples. So ED, they will perfectly fit in here. E and D. And we know E is the father of D. If E is a male, then B is a female. And total there are 3 females. So the third female has to be F. Did we understand this entire tree now? Okay. Moving on. Now, setting arrangements are a bit complex if you get confused in your directions. But if you're careful in reading the instructions, careful in making the diagram, then seating arrangements can be extremely easy to solve, right? What we need to understand is that in seating arrangements, there are two types of seating arrangement. One is known as a linear arrangement where people are sitting in a straight line. Second is known as a circular arrangement where people can be sitting around a circle. Now, when nothing is mentioned, we always assume that people are facing the north or upwards direction. Why? Because then for everybody, the natural left is left and the natural right is right. Right? There's no confusion of left, right. Similarly, when everybody is sitting around a circle, we assume that everybody is facing the center of the circle. Right? And for every person, we move in the clockwise fashion to go to the left of that person. Are we together so far? Okay. Now, one very important clue which is very important to interpret is the word between. Now, supposing the clue says that P is sitting between Q and R, then always remember either you can put P between Q and R like this, or you can put P between Q and R like this. There are two possibilities. Don't assume any one of them. You'll have to make both the diagrams and keep continuing both the diagrams till you reach a point when one of them is impossible to continue with. So that gets eliminated. The other one is your answer. But till you don't know which is on the left and which is on the right, you will have to consider both the possibilities. Did we understand this point? This point is very important because many students, they forget there are two possibilities to place a person in between others. Right? Okay. Now, if it is said A is to the left of B, then A is to the left of B. If it says X is second to the left of Y, then X first is second to the left of Y. R is third to the right of T. So T 1, 2, 3. R is third to the right of T. So it's very important to read these clues properly. But if it is given that A is just next to the right of B, right? Right of B is this, but next to the right of B means this. Are we together so far? Okay. Try this one. Chalo, let's take a look at it. It is said that T and Q are sitting together. So T and Q could be sitting together like this or this. T and R are sitting together. So T and R or T and R. P is on the extreme left. So irrespective of where the others are, P is on the extreme left. Q is second from the extreme right. Right. If this is the extreme right, first, second. Yes, if this is S, then Q could be second from the extreme right. If this is Q, this is the extreme right. We already have two people. Second from the extreme right is T. We cannot have this position at all. That means PRTQS is our best arrangement. Now in this case, who is sitting between P and Q? So both R and T are sitting between P and Q. Right? Both R and T are sitting between P and Q. Did everybody get this one? The extreme right is the end of the row. Right? So first from the right is this position. Second from the right is this position. Okay. Moving on. That's right, Gia. Yes, Dhriti. Good. Most of you are getting it right. Aksa, you need to check. No, Mehak. Yes, that's right, Aksa. So, what's given to us? The data says that there are 5 persons standing in a line, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of the 2 persons at extreme end is a prof, the other is a businessman. If this is a prof, this could be a businessman, but alternatively, this could be a prof and this could be a businessman. We have to consider both the possibilities. The advocate is to the right of the student. So wherever the student is, the advocate is to his right, but where I can't fix now. Author is to the left of the businessman. If this is the businessman's position, author cannot be further to the left, right? So this is definitely eliminated. So author is to the left of the businessman, which means student and advocate have to be fit here. So what is the position of the advocate from the left? Whether you count from the left or you count from the right, he is in the third position, right? So the answer is third. Did everybody get it now? Shania. Okay. Now, let's take a look at circular arrangements, right? We just saw a few examples of linear. Let's understand circular arrangements as well. Circular arrangements, like I said, are when people are sitting in a circle. So it could be 4 people in which they're equidistant like this for 5, 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever number. Irrespective of how many people are given, you have to make sure that you are drawing them more or less at the same distance from each other, right? Because I've seen people making 6 people sit in a circle like this. This is not 6 people sitting in a circle, right? So when you need not be very precise, but when you're making them sit, they always need to seem as if they are equidistant to each other. Now, in a circular arrangement, always place the first person at the bottommost position. And I'll tell you why. In a circle, we assume that everybody is facing the center, right? Now, if you take a look at person 5, can you tell me who is sitting to the left of 5? Now that's precisely where most of us are making a mistake. If you think that 4 is sitting to the left of 5, then you are wrong. Look at the arrow. 5 is facing this. He's facing the opposite direction as us. So for him, this direction is left and this direction is right. Confusing, right? That's why what you should do is always place the first person at the bottom, right? And you know that for him, this is definitely the left, no confusion. So once you have placed the first person and you have made the left, simply draw a circle with a pointing arrow, and for every person for left you will follow this arrow, right? So there will be no confusion. Now if you take a look at it, for 5 the arrow for left is this side, that means 6 is to the left of 5. Left and right depends on the direction that you are facing. If you start placing people in a circle from the top, you will get confused with left and right and make mistakes. So always place the first person at the bottom, mark the left, mark the arrow, and follow the arrow for every person's left. That way you will not make a mistake when drawing a circular arrangement. Did everybody follow me so far? The biggest mistake is left and right. So to avoid that mistake, always place the first person at the bottom. Because it's a circle, it won't make a difference, right? Ultimately, you can rotate it. So the best position to start placing people in a circle is always the bottom. Now, just to make matters clear, take a look. There are 8 people which are seated, right? And I marked the left and right for every person. For the person who's at the bottom, the left and right is the same as us. But for the person at the top who is looking at us, the left and right have to be interchanged. So to avoid that confusion, if you take a look at it, if you go in the clockwise direction, everybody's left is in the clockwise direction. That makes life simple. Did we get this? Okay, try this one. Are we getting it? Are you sure? Sure, let's take a look. A, B, C, D, E, F. That means 6 people are sitting in a circular manner, right? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. D is between F and B. D is between F and B. But D also can be between F and B like this. A is second to the left of D, right? This is the left. A is second to the left of D. So this is D. First, second to the left of D. D first, second to the left of D. And second to the right of E. That means A is second to the right of E. So if this is A, first E, second to the right of E, again second to the right of E. In either case, that is C, right? So now tell me, who is facing A? This is the person who will be opposite to A. So we have either F or B who can be opposite to A. I'll put it in 2 separate diagrams. These are the 2 possibilities. For A, it can be either F or B who is at the opposite end. A lot of students got E as the answer. I don't know how you got E as the answer. Did everybody understand this now? Did everybody understand this now? Okay. Try this one. That's right. Pretty much everybody is getting it. Okay. So 6 people around a table. Jitu is 2 places to the left of Amar. So if this is Amar, 1, 2. Jitu is 2 places to the left and opposite to Kiran. So Jitu is opposite to Kiran. So this is Kiran. Dhawan and Manjeet are opposite to each other. There's only one set of places left where 2 people can be opposite. So either this is Dhawan and this is Manjeet, or this is Dhawan and this is Manjeet. The only person left is Hemant, who has to be here. Now the question is, who is sitting to the left of Jitu? So following the clockwise direction, for Jitu, this is left and that is Hemant. So Hemant is sitting left of Jitu. Did you get this? Did everybody understand this? No? Pratyush? Okay, let's do this again. It's given that there are 6 people. So 6 people opposite will be somewhat like this. Now, Jitu is 2 places to the left of Amar. So first I place Amar, right? Jitu is 2 places to the left. So 1 place, 2 place. So Jitu is placed here. Jitu is 2 places left of Amar and opposite to Kiran. So this is Kiran. Are we together so far? Pratyush, did you understand it so far? Okay. Now it says Dhawan and Manjeet are opposite. There are 3 empty places. But I cannot place any one of those two here because the opposite place is already occupied. So Dhawan and Manjeet, I don't know who is where, but both of them are occupying either of these positions. Did you get this? Now who is the only person left? Hemant, and that is this position. So left of Jitu is Hemant. Did you get that? Excellent. Chalo. Try this one. Okay. You have to make the complete placement. It's not a single question. You first have to make the complete placement of every person. Let's take a look at it. So there's a square table, right? And there are two people sitting on each side. Now there are three ladies, and it's important that they are not seated to next each other. So the moment we know when a place is occupied by a lady, either side will be a male. Now we start. J is between L and F. So either I put J is between L and F like this. Alternatively, J is between L and F like this. G is between I and F. So G is between I and F, or G is between I and F. Now, H, a lady member, is second to the left of J. J first, second. So H, a lady member, is second to the left of J. If this is J, then first, second. So now we know that this cannot be the arrangement because it violates the condition of the placement of H. So now we can easily proceed. Now we know H is a female. So the neighbors must be male, that is for sure. F, a male. So F, a male, is seated opposite to E, a lady member. F is seated opposite to E, who is a lady member. So if this is a female, this is already a male. This is also a male. F, a male member, is seated opposite to E, a female. There is a lady between F and I. Between F and I, this is F. This is female, right? So one female, two female, three females. And who is left to be seated? The only person left to be seated is K. So that's it. We have the three lady members, E, H and G, and the remaining are males. And this is the order in which all of them are seated. Did we understand it? Did we get the complete placement? So any question asked out of this as a set, we can easily answer once we have this diagram in front of us. Good. So guys, that's it for the day. I hope you had fun understanding the basic types of puzzles. There are so many different individual types of puzzles which can come up in exams, but these are the major categories which usually make their appearances. We of course will be taking a lot more sessions of puzzles of each type in detail. Today was just an introduction. You can attempt the puzzles in the analytical reasoning book, right? There is a complete chapter on puzzles. There are two exercises. You can attempt the first exercise of puzzles as your homework. So if there are any doubts, you can hang around to ask them. Else we are done for the day. You may exit the session. Have a good day. Stay home. Stay safe.